today we're going to talk about how to capture some of the harmonic progression of a song in your improvisations. So, when people start improvising, the obvious first step is to start with the pentatonic scale. So I'm going to assume that you guys know that already. So I'll just play you a B minor pentatonic. Which of course is also D major pentatonic because of the relative relationship. So, B minor will work over any song in the key of B minor, more or less. Any chord progression involving those chords. I'll leave that up to you guys to find out what the chords are for the key of B minor. Okay, so let's say we start off with the actual chord of B minor. If we have a look at that chord, all the notes of that chord are contained within this minor pentatonic scale. That is B, D and F sharp. They're all in there, they're all in the minor pentatonic scale. But let's imagine our next chord is an E minor. If we have a look at the notes of the E minor chord, which is E, G and B, well, you can just do this by looking at the fretboard shapes. You'll notice that there's a note in that chord that isn't in the B minor pentatonic scale. So if we're in the key of B minor and we're just sticking to the B minor pentatonic scale the whole time, when we go to an E minor chord, we're going to have a note in that harmony there that we don't have access to by sticking to the pentatonic scale. So what we're going to do, this is a general strategy that works almost all the time in any key, any harmonic progression. We're just going to alter the pentatonic scale to include that note that we don't have. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the F sharp, or in other words, this note here, which is the 7th fret of the 2nd string. We're going to move that up to the 8th fret of the 2nd string, just so that we have a complete E minor chord in the scale we're using to improvise. So we had B minor pentatonic work nicely. When we change to the E minor chord, we have to alter that pentatonic a little bit, just by one note, to make sure we have the complete chord. And of course that one note appears in 2 octaves. If we're using the standard pentatonic box shape, that one note appears in 2 octaves. So that means that the 7th fret of the 2nd string and the 9th fret of the 5th string both have to be moved from an F sharp up a semitone to a G. And then we have all the notes we need for an E minor chord. So let's just have a listen to this for a second so you can hear the harmony and then the scale and hear how they match up. B minor. Sounds nice? E minor. With our alteration, back to B minor. E minor. Back to B minor. So I just dwelt on those notes there for a second just so you could really hear the impact of that little change. It makes a big difference to the whole sound of the whole thing. So, instantly, if I'm playing over, just sticking with a B minor pentatonic and I make that little change, instantly you can hear a shift of harmonic colour in the solo. And that's the important thing that we all should be striving for. It's always good fun and it's kind of safe to stick to just the pentatonic shape, but it gets very boring to listen to, and it does get boring to play if you do it for too long as well. So you really want to be thinking about ways of bringing that harmony into your improvisation. So here we go. So here's the B minor pentatonic. Now our E minor alteration. E minor still. Back to B minor. Okay, so just playing the scales up and down, we can already hear the harmonic shift. It's that powerful. Alright, so of course when we think about E minor, and I mentioned before with the B minor and the D minor, it works over B minor and D major because of their relative relationships. We can do the same thing with the E minor. So the E minor adjustment we just made will also work over a G major chord, G major, which is also in the key of B minor. So far of the 7 chords in the key of B minor, we've covered 4 of them, and we've absolutely nailed the harmonic content of each one of those chords. So we had the B minor and the D major, and for those 2 chords we just used the straight B minor pentatonic scale. Next up we have the E minor, and we have its relative, which is G major, sorry. And we had that little adjustment there. And then we've got all the notes for those chords. So we've got 4 chords covered. There's only one more alternative we really need to cover all the, well, that only covers 6 chords, but they're the most common chords used in the minor harmony. So, our last modification to this pentatonic scale, we're going to go back to just the B minor pentatonic, normal, and we have to make one more little change to nail the other 2 chords. And the other 2 chords are F sharp minor, which is sometimes F sharp 7, but I'm just going to leave that for now. It's making it more complicated than it has to be. Let's just imagine that it is F sharp minor for now, which it often is anyway. And its relative A major. Okay, so if we have a look at those chords and have a think about what notes of the chord aren't in the actual scale that we're using, you'll notice that it's the 3rd of the scale, or it's changing the D down to a C sharp, or to a C sharp or a D flat, but really, technically, we would call it a D sharp. So that means we're moving the 10th fret of both the 6th and the 1st strings down a semitone, and we're also moving the 7th fret of the 3rd string down a semitone as well. So that will give us all the notes we need for our F sharp minor chord and our A major chord. Sorry. So here's how that's going to sound. Here's the straight B minor harmony followed by the B minor pentatonic, B minor chord, B minor pentatonic. Alright, then we have the F sharp minor. We have those 3 notes that we adjusted from here down to there. And here's how that's going to sound. So here that scale matches much more harmoniously with the F sharp minor chord than if we just ploughed straight through that chord with a B minor pentatonic. We'd have no change in our solo at all. If you just stuck to B minor pentatonic the whole time, if you took the chords away, you couldn't even tell harmonically what was going on. So we wanted to try and avoid that situation. Alright, so just to recap, here's our 3 alternatives. First of all, we had B minor, or D major, which we just used the straight pentatonic scale for. Then we had E minor, or G major, in which the alteration was we moved the Fs to a G, or in other words, the 7th fret of the 2nd string and the 9th fret of the 5th string. We moved both of those up a semitone, and that gave us this sound. Or if you want to do it over a G chord. And our last alteration was to cover the F sharp minor chord and the A chord. And that was moving the 10th fret on the 1st and 6th strings down a semitone, and also the 7th fret on the 3rd string down a semitone. And between those three versions, the original minor pentatonic, the first alteration and the second alteration, we've covered pretty much all the chords used in the key of B minor. Alright, and that's the first step towards bringing the harmony from the chords into your solo.